Hey Manic, good to see you. Oh, work was okay. Had a lot of printers, fixed a lot of printers. Just gonna start off by finishing off these Bead Head Nymphs I want to do up, and then I'm not sure what I'm gonna do after that. I'll probably do some classic wet flies maybe. I want to do some streamer stuff, but I have to dig all my streamer stuff out, so I might do that later today. I thought these were gonna flare out on me weird, but it actually turned out pretty tight. Happy though. Started going a little cattywampus, but straighten out. Oh, not quite that far north, mate. I'm interior British Columbia, so I'm north, but not that north. I got enough on here to get one more in. I live between a provincial park, a ski hill, and a fishing resort. And I have 3 beautiful lakes within walking distance from my property. And there's probably over 2,000 trout lakes within 2 hours drive in any direction, so I am very lucky to live where I live. It's absolute amazing place to live for fishing. Oh, that was uni French I just tied in there too. I forgot to show that. I normally do. Just silver uni French and small. You feel free to use silver wire. I'm just sticking silver because it's silver bead head, but you can tie these in copper, gold, tungsten. Really like whatever color you want. Doesn't even have to be a traditional color. Go bright pink if you want. Actually, that might be a fun idea. Do some of these up in some crazy random colors. Probably got some crazy beads and stuff. That might be fun actually. I don't have my bead kit out. I'm sure I got some really cool. I got a lot of really cool old Japanese hand-done glass beads that would make for nice bead heads. Are you more like Central or East Coast or West Coast, if you don't mind me asking? If I'm gonna throw a guess out there, I want to say probably Ontario-ish. Ha! Yeah, I don't know, man. You just pegged me as a Torontonian. People out there just have a certain kind of... oh, what's a good word for it? Just the friendliness and the way they come across on people. They, especially around the Great Lakes, Toronto, you know, Thunder Bay up to Quebec and that whole area. I had a number of teachers that came from that area. All great people. Had a little thin spot on that hurl, but I had to double back on one turn, but it looks okay. last wrap is just kind of fighting me a little bit. There we go. I think I got her. Yeah, it must be because of that double wrap I put right in that spot, try and get that thin. Not good enough. Oh, always good to have another Canadian inmate. Trying to remember what style legs I was going with these ones. Just hackle out the side. Ah, here we go. This was the type. Regular old rooster hackle. This would be more on the side of your cape like a schlopin almost, but the smaller ones. I'm just going to stand them out. So normally I'll grab about double the gap length when it's these thinner feathers. If it was more like an actual hackle feather, then I'd grab probably about the gap, hook gap. I'm going to go about hook gap and a half, or maybe even 2. Tear it off. That's what you're left with. And we'll tie it in on an angle if it's going to behave on me. So 3 wraps. That's a hair long, so I'm just going to pull it back. I like them to come kind of to the point, but just like a bit back from the point. That'll give them enough room to move around and undulate. And we'll do in the other side the same as the first. And if you're ripping off the left and right side of the same hackle feather, then you can make sure they're roughly the right amount, thickness, and everything. You don't have to really think about it. Left for left side, right for right side. Just like that. And you can hackle this, you know, like you normally would any other nymph or what have you. I'm just doing it this way to use up some of the hackles that I got. And I do prefer this method myself because it just, in my opinion, looks better in the water, but personal preference. And then what I like to do with these, even though it is a bit annoying and can fail, is I like to pull these back. You can just cut them off right there, like right at your bead head, and then try and get the tag ends buried in. But that adds a little bit more bulk there, and it also gives you the chance of having the legs being pulled out easier. So if you take the legs, or the tag end of the legs, fold it back, do a couple wraps to tie it down without pulling too hard on it, because you don't want to readjust your legs. It's an extra step and it takes a second or two longer and a little more thread, but what you're doing is you're locking it in a different direction. It makes them a lot less likely to pop out. And then when you're building up your thread behind it, when you're tying in the buyets, it'll lock that in, and you're not actually adding a lot more bulk, so it makes it for a more durable fly. And we'll do the same thing here. Biggest thing is, because these are only tied in with 2 or 3 wraps, is if you put any pressure on these as you're tying them in, you can inadvertently shorten up on your legs. So just 3 or 4 will be fine. Get in and clip them off. Ah! I think I actually clipped off more of my legs than I clipped off my butt ends there by accident. Yeah, well, they're still there. I'm gonna grab a few extra. I think I messed that one up. I'll go for a halfer. Yeah, that would be the other thing you want to watch out for, is not kind of defeating the purpose now because I'm adding extra wraps. But there, that looks much better. I did clip a few by mistake. Now this is a size, what am I tying on, 12? 14 maybe? Can't remember if these are 14 or 12, I think these are probably 14. So if I was making a slightly bigger nymph too, this process is not nearly as bad. There we go, much better. I got that nice collar with, I like to have a little, because of course they don't have legs, you know, right in the middle here on the nymph, and the fish are going to see it from the bottom, generally speaking. They're going to see it from here. So you want to have the legs coming out the sides. So I think just in general it just gives you a better looking nymph. But you know, feel free to just completely hackle that up like you normally would. It's definitely not going to hurt nothing. The nice thing about these patterns is you can use the nastiest, scrubbiest soft tackles or whatever you got kicking around for legs on them, because it really don't matter. They're getting soaking wet, and it's not going to make any difference. That is true. There is a little bit of a... I am sorry, I forgot about the rivalry between Ontonians and non-Ontonians to Torontonians. I'm just trying to separate these a hair more. Sometimes they like to stick together like glue, and other times you gotta really fight them to get them to where you want them. That's good. That's pretty. That's a good little split. I'm happy with that. Okay, so we only got 2 wraps in there. We're gonna do a third, a 4th, and then a 5th right behind. That'll lock those in. You want to do 5 instead of 3 wraps there, just because you're going to be folding them over. You want to lock these back ones in. Again, same reason we do it this way instead of just tying them back. And you can just throw them in, tie them in. If you're just doing these for your own box or your production tying, then yeah, you're going to want to probably tie them the other direction. But tying them this way, you lock them in with 5 threads. And then you can fold them back and lock them in again. And that gives you makes them way more secure when the fish are biting on them. And I'll do 3 wraps there just to hold them in place. Those are way too close together, so we're going to fix that. I expected them to spring a little more than they did. I'm probably being honestly a lot more fussy on these biots than I need to be, but biots are one of my favorite part of a fly, or these type anyway. You have to admit they just look so good when you get them bang on. I know the fish don't care at all, but do 5 wraps there. I'm just going to walk it back a little bit. You can finish that last bit up. I like to have the white top biots coming off. These ones were a little bit thinner than the last couple I had out of that batch, but I like to have them just coming like a bodkin length longer than the body. So they're just hanging over a bit. I think that gives them a little bit more ability to move in the water. I got, looks like 2 more of these ones to do, and I'll switch over to gold. I like to get these batch done and move on to something different. And yeah, for those last 3 or 4 wraps, you could easily have done them with the whip finish. As long as you're not building up too much bulk on your head, don't matter any. And some people like a thicker collar for their wraps. Some people like to keep it real tight. I don't mind the thicker collar. The whole point of this pattern is to be in a attractor pattern. It's not representing any specific bug, so may as well make it look pretty. That's the whole reason you're using colored thread anyway. Yeah, traditionally red thread, but again, you could use green, yellow, any other color you want, really. Yeah, those splits are nice. I'm happy with that one. Turned out good. Actually, a little better than I was expecting, because I was having a little trouble with those. No worries, Manic. I'm glad you could stop in. Always a pleasure, mate. Good luck on your, I'm assuming, housework or whatever you need to get done today. I'll be on most of the day too, so if you're finished, feel free to drop back in later. And we're just going to put a little dab of Sally Hansen's on top there. Just on top of the buyouts. Just to leave a little cap bubble. Just for durability, you can't see it when it dries anyway. Just to keep anything from moving over top of the bead head. I'll just let that dry for a minute. Add it to all its brothers and sisters here. Two more of these silvers and then we'll switch it up with some gold. I think on the gold I'll switch over to soft tackle for legs. using 10-aught. Or aught 10, I guess. Lead wire. Just on these smaller hooks, it works well. 1, 2. And we're gonna tie in our red. It's 8-aught, yeah, 8-aught red uni thread. It's your standard uni. Bury in a few of these wraps here. Just lightly, we're not super worried about them. They're not going anywhere. We'll get them when we get the biots in. We're gonna move back right to the bend point. We're gonna make a little thread bump there. And I want to have it a little bit elongated, basically kind of like the shape of a ant's butt. We'll bring our thread back to the point. There you go. And that's just going to help splay the biots out a little bit. Not necessary whatsoever. You can totally skip that step. Some people will put a little dubbing blob on their thread just to do the same thing with just a hair of dowing. I got about half one of these biots used up. It's getting a little bit on the thinner side coming to the top here, so when we switch back to the bigger hooks, I'll probably switch to a different biot set just to get a few thicker ones here. Just angle them towards myself a hair while I tie them in. And the torsion from the thread should... Yep, there we go. Get them right where we want them. So they're pretty much bang on straight. If you tie them in straight, then they're going to end up on your opposite side. And we just wrap up just a bit into that thread bump. That'll flare them out nice. See? And you also get that, I like how it gives you that little kind of red I guess it would be a tag, so a red tag on the back end. Excuse me, have some tea. I might dig out all my stuff for some dragonfly nymphs or something after these. And we're just going to pull. You saw what I did there, just push the bites backwards. Instead of cutting them off, you can cut them off, but this helps you build a body. They're roughly about the size you want for that taper anyway. And why waste material? It also stops your thread from sinking into those, into the lead wraps. But, you know, that gives you a decent taper down. You don't need a huge taper on these, but it helps. And it also helps to lock the bead in. Is it medium? No, we're using small. Yeah, we're using small uni for this. A little French. But you can feel free to use silver wire, silver thread, brass, bronze, don't matter. Cut off a length there. Need to do, was it 2 more? This one 1 more, so that's probably good for me. Okay. I like to tie the tinsel into the base of the lead. That again helps build that taper up on that side. We're just going to tie it right into the base of the biots. You can see it coming off there. I like to have it on my side of the fly. Some people tie it in up top, but it shouldn't matter at the end of the day. And I go with 3 strands. I pulled out another one, but it's not. It's a little damaged, so we'll save that for something smaller. Now once you have the 3 strands together, you can pull it off with your nail. And it'll break at the most brittle part, so that'll help you from breaking it when you're winding. If it's gonna break there, it might as well break in your hand, not in your fly. We'll cut those off flush and tie them in right behind our bead. It's gonna behave for me. There you go. Get a good 5 wraps at the base. And bring it right back up to the bead head. I like to tie the thinner part of the herl in first, because as you're using it, you can pull back and it makes it nice and stand out in like a brush effect. Just gives you that nice I'm just twisting this up a bit. Adds a little more durability to it. Stops the separate strands from spreading out as much. And just touch and turns all the way up. And just catch that in at the bead, couple wraps on either side, couple more, lock it in, and it's good. I like to cut them off just a little bit off center, just on one side. That way when you're laying your top biots, it's not going to affect its position, so it's not pushing it left or right. Let's get a couple wraps there for the tag in. Okay, where'd my feather go? I think it was this one. Yeah, it's got this nice kind of almost dirty speckled color to it, which I really like for legs. I cannot recall which cape I pulled that off of, but I will try and find it. Just an old vintage rooster saddle. Or not saddle, cape. We're going to pull them off 1.5 times. These are thinner fibers, but 1.5 times the hook gap length. And just pull them off like that. And we'll put the right side on the right side, and the left side on the left, and that way we'll have a matching pair of legs. It's being a little fussy on me. Angle those down to the hook point. 30-degree angle or so, give or take. 3 wraps. It's going to be a bit long. Beauty. Okay, that's about where I want them. They're just coming up to the hook point. Hey, Jesus, how you doing, mate? Sorry, man, I wasn't paying attention to the chat there. Yeah, Manic had to take off for a bit. He's doing some chores and housework and whatnot. He might show up later. Was nice having him drop in though, for sure. Alright, so we'll get those tied in on both sides. Let's see, is that far side okay? The far side's a hair long too. And yes, a hair is an official fly tying length. Clipped off my lax ones by accident, so I'm overthinking this. But you basically just want to grab them gently. You can't really put any tension on them. Pull them back. And just put a couple light securing wraps on. Get them to bite. There we go. 1, 2. Bring them back up. And you can cut them off. Then when you make your other wraps, that'll bury them in to the head so it's a little cleaner. Got one little wispy something going on there. Just gonna do about 5 wraps here to secure that in. Just trying to see where I set down my white goose bite. There we go. Sorry, guys. Alright, so this little section here is sticking together. They do that. Let's see if I can break off two. There we go. I got two goose bite. Fussing with him a little much, but just trying to get him square. I got my hair along there, so I'm just going to pull them. There we be. Okay, lock that in. Yeah, that's a nice split. I'm happy with that. That's pretty good. Alright, I got 5 wraps on that. I'm going to finish off the last 5 with the whip finish. Oop. Of course, I undo it as a... Alright, well, let's do that again. There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and 5 wraps should be good. They don't make up too much bulk. You want to have your thread layer, you know, a hair below the bead head, just so it's not going to pop over for any reason. I do like to have it close to the bead head. Just gives it a more cylindrical appearance. So you don't want it to look like your nymph is wearing a space helmet. You want it to look like the head is connected to the thorax. There we go. I think that was our last silver? We got one more. Ah, one more. We're just going to put a blob of Sally Hansen's on top. Just on the base of those biots. Secure them in. There we go. 10 wraps of aught 10. Not counting the tag in. Pushed up under the bead head. Yeah, that's a nice splay on that. Happy with that. Tie those in right up to the top there. Got one little spot here to tie down. And we're not going to cut them off, we're just going to fold them back. Tie them in. That'll pin our bead in place. And help us with our taper. Alright. I got 3 strands of peacock herl there. I feel like these two are kind of stuck together. And just kind of buffing them out a bit, then we'll twist them together. And one on one side and 2 or 3 on the other to lock it in. That's not going anywhere. Hey, just fussing with the hackle. Need a bit of a 1.5 to 2 gap lengths. Stir it off. Tie that in about 30 degrees toward the hook point. No, we're not, because we forgot to do a rip. We're gonna rip the fly first. We're gonna reverse wrap it. Yeah, that's good. I like that. It's really even. just for kicks and giggles, I'm just going to tie in one set at a time here. Mostly because I was happy with that side. Downside of doing it that way, whoop, so drop your feather. Downside of doing it that way is you have less chance to adjust it. Very good. There, I'm gonna reset the stream here. We're done with the silver-headed Prince Nymphs. You can see all of his friends there that he's gonna go hang out with. I notice my stream's a little on the fuzzy side from what it normally is, and I'm getting some errors about bitrate, so I'm gonna change a few settings here and see if I can fix that up, and then we'll be back in a bit. I'll grab some lunch too. And thanks for hanging out, guys. Appreciate it.